During the late 1930s, Hungary attempted to modernize its air force. While the military recognized the need for more effective and modern aircraft designs, the limited local industrial capacity and lack of production capabilities made it difficult to acquire the necessary equipment in a timely and efficient manner. Partnering with Italy, with whom the Hungarians already had a good working relationship, seemed like a logical solution. The Reggiane Re.2000 fighter appeared to meet Hungary's requirements, and a subsequent order for 70 of them was placed, along with a license for domestic production. However, delays and difficulties with production meant that the Re.2000 was not available in large numbers until later in the war, by which time it was outdated. After the First World War, Hungary was subject to the Treaty of Trianon, which was signed on the 4th of June 1920. This treaty severely limited Hungary's military capabilities and imposed significant territorial losses. As part of the treaty, Hungary was not allowed to maintain an air force. However, in the following years, the Allies became less involved in enforcing the treaty, and Hungary began to rebuild. By late 1930, the new Hungarian Air Force was openly presented to the world. The re-establishment of its air force was a significant achievement for Hungary, and it played a role in the country's efforts to assert its independence and sovereignty during a tumultuous period in European history. In those early years, the Hungarians lacked more modern aircraft designs. For this reason, military delegations were dispatched to Italy and Germany. Thanks to their good relationship with Italy, the Hungarians were presented with the new Re.2000 fighter. This aircraft was developed by Reggiane, and its design was heavily influenced by the US Seversky P-35. Unfortunately for Reggiane, the Re.2000 would not be adopted, but they received a green light to sell it abroad. The Hungarians were satisfied with the Re.2000's performance and decided to purchase 70 of them. The contract signed at the end of 1939 included weapons, spare parts, onboard equipment, and a license for domestic production. The decision not to purchase radios and instead equip them with domestically built ones is also interesting, as it shows the Hungarians' desire for self-sufficiency with regards to some components. The Italians were to deliver the first aircraft by mid-January 1940. The local production of the Re.2000 was to be carried out by Mavag, with those aircraft built in Hungary being powered by domestically produced engines. The acquisition of the license highlights the country's efforts to become more self-sufficient in the production of aircraft and related equipment. As there were delays with the shipment of the first aircraft, the Hungarians sent a delegation to Italy in April of 1940. Reggiane faced a shortage of raw materials and couldn't produce enough planes. Only one Re.2000 had been completed when the Hungarian delegation visited the factory. The single plane was flown to Hungary in May 1940, and by the end of 1940, only 7 such aircraft had been delivered, partly due to the shortage of materials and partly because the Italian Air Force confiscated 9 planes for their own use. These were later replaced by 9 new ones, although it is not entirely clear when the last aircraft arrived in Hungary, with some sources indicating at the end of 1941 or May of 1943. The Re.2000 was known in Hungary under the nickname Heja, meaning hawk. In some sources, possibly in order to distinguish between the Italian and Hungarian aircraft, the former was marked as Héja I, and those built in Hungary as Héja II. As the first Italian-built Heja aircraft began to arrive in Hungary, they were given to different pilot training schools. In hopes of being less independent on Italian engines, Hungary decided to upgrade this fighter with a domestically built one. They planned on using the domestically built WMK-14th engine with 950 horsepower. The Hungarians wanted to know if such an installation was feasible, but the Italians were not interested at all and preferred to sell their fighter with the original engine. As the Hungarian proposal did not gain much traction, they decided to have modifications done by Mavag. They chose to use a stronger 1085 horsepower WMK-14B engine instead, and modified one of the Italian-acquired fighters to test it out. These tests were successful, and the Hungarians then placed an order for 100 domestically built aircraft. In addition to upgrading the engine, the Hungarians also replaced the Italian armament with a domestic 12.7mm Gebauer heavy machine gun. This required the design of the upper part of the front fuselage, as the ammunition for each machine gun was stored in a box magazine with a capacity of 300 rounds. The Italians sent the necessary documentation and blueprints for the Re.2000 to Hungary in October 1940. This caused delays in the delivery of the improved Héja II. The first operational Héja II was built in June of 1941 and was successfully tested the same month. While the Héja II was successful in its testing, it was ultimately not as advanced as the German Bf-109, which Hungary also obtained a license to produce. However, due to the estimated timeline for Bf-109 production, planned to start in 1943, the decision was made to continue producing the Héja II as a temporary solution. The preparations for the production of the first 25 Héja IIs were carried out in November of 1941. Despite the extra spare parts and airframes supplied by the Italians, the start of production was delayed due to the lack of proper machining tools and production capacities of Mavic. Production of the Héja II finally began in July 1942, but ultimately problems with the Reggiane fuel tanks were noted. The Hungarian engineers replaced it with 22 smaller 20 to 25 liter fuel tanks. To their surprise, this modification improved the Héja II's stability during flight, reducing fuel sloshing. The production of the first 25 planes was completed by October of 1942, before the start of the second series of 75 aircraft. An order for 100 additional Héja IIs were placed. The last Héja II would be built in early of March 1944. It is unclear how many were actually produced, as sources give different numbers, or anywhere from 185 to 203. Officially, the Héja II was accepted for service by the Hungarian Air Force in late September of 1942. The production of the later series was slowed down due to difficulties with obtaining necessary parts from abroad. In addition, the factory where the engines were built was almost destroyed by the Allied bombing raids in 1944. Given the loss of necessary tooling equipment and parts, it was no longer possible to make any new WMK-14s. Hungary, as an Axis ally, joined Germany's attack on the Soviet Union in 1941. The first Héja fighter squadron was formed on the 7th of August 1941 with 7 aircraft and was stationed in Ukraine. The first combat mission was to escort a group of Hungarian bombers attacking Mykolaiv on the 11th of August. The first air victories were achieved in late August when 3 Héja fighters engaged a group of 5 Soviet I-16 fighters. The Hungarian fighters managed to shoot down 3 I-16s with no losses. By the end of August, the Héja fighters had made 151 sorties with 5 victories. The Héja would see action on the Eastern Front up to late October 1941, when they were recalled to Hungary. 1 aircraft was lost during the flight back to Hungary, crashing somewhere over the Carpathian Mountains. During its first year of service, the Héjas were mostly used on bomber escort and occasional ground attack missions. As most of the Soviet Air Force was destroyed early on, there were few air encounters with enemy planes. In total, 3 Héja were lost, with an additional 1 being damaged. In preparation for the new German campaign on the Eastern Front in 1942, the Hungarian Air Force formed the 1st Fighter Group. It had a squadron equipped with 12 Héjas. As there were cases of Germans mistaking the Héja for Soviet planes, 1 Héja was presented to several German units to familiarize them with friendly pilots. Initially, the Germans gave the Hungarian fighters the task of patrolling and escorting reconnaissance planes and bombers near the front. By the end of July of 1942, a second unit equipped with 11 Héjas was deployed to the front. The 1st squadron was tasked with bomber escort, while the 2nd reconnaissance escort. On the 7th of August, a Soviet IL-2 managed to shoot down a Héja fighter. On the same date, Héja fighters intercepted a group of 3 German He-111 bombers that were accidentally bombing Hungarian lines and managed to shoot 1 down. Due to a maintenance problem, the Hungarians only had a few operational Héja aircraft ready by early of August 1942. On August 20th, an incident during takeoff occurred, and Hungarian leader Miklos Horthy's son, István Horthy, lost his life. The details regarding this accident are not clear even to this day. Some sources mention that his aircraft may have been sabotaged by the Germans, but in reality it was likely a case of pilot error or miscalculation. By the end of August, the Hungarians lost 4 fighters, with 6 more being under repair. The same month, Héja pilots managed to shoot down 5 enemy aircraft, with 3 more in September. By October 1942, most Héja pilots were recalled to Hungary to begin training on the new Bf-109. The remaining 13 Héjas were used on the Eastern Front up to late December, with only 6 still being operational. The surviving Héjas met their fate when they were destroyed by their crew in order to avoid being captured by a Soviet offensive, as they could not make an escape due to the harsh Russian winter of 1943. No improved Héja IIs were used on the Eastern Front, as these were kept in reserve. As a shipment of more advanced fighters arrived from Germany in late 1943, the Héja was mostly used for training. Due to the increase of Allied bombing runs, they were put into action for the defense of Hungary's skies. In March 1944, Germans set forces to occupy their allies, as there were indications that Hungarian politicians were negotiating with the Soviets for an armistice. During this occupation, the Germans prevented any further work or training on the Héja II. In April, the Allies began a major bombing campaign of vital targets in Hungary. On the 13th of April 1944, Budapest was bombed by the 5th Air Force. On that occasion, the escorting P-38s were engaged by a group of Héja II fighters. During this engagement, one Héja II was damaged. Another group of 8 Héja IIs were sent to support the defense of Budapest. 4 of these attacked Allied bombers, but due to heavy defensive fire, the attack had to be aborted. 2 Héja II fighters were damaged and 1 had to make an emergency landing. The second group of 4 failed to reach the bombers but ran into a group of P-47s. After a short engagement, 1 Héja II was shot down and 1 was damaged. After that, a few surviving ones were mostly used for training, with the last aircraft being lost in early 1945. This concludes our look at the Hungarian Héja I and II fighter. What do you think of the Hungarian attempts to improve its performance? Were there better options available to the Hungarians in 1939? Let us know in the comments. If you like what we do and want to see more, remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video. Also, don't forget to take a look at our extensive collection of articles on our website, plain-encyclopedia.com. Thank you.